I don't understand, Lily, are you crying? What's the matter? As he climbed the stairs to the 5th floor, James stared puzzledly at the girl sitting right on the dirty landing between the 3rd and 4th floors. Lily's apartment was on the 4th floor, but she clearly wasn't going there. James had known the girl since she was a child. They were 5 years apart, and he had always treated her like a baby. Until they were grown up. He knew Lily was getting married. The whole driveway knew about it. However, his neighbor's behavior surprised him. A beautiful paper bag from the bridal shop was lying on the ground next to her. A veil and white artificial flowers were sticking out of it. Smearing tears down her face, Lily looked at the man and said hello with a sad smile. Hi, James. How's it going? I'm fine. And why are you shedding tears in the stairway? Cautiously asked James. What's wrong? Is there anything I can do to help? I don't think so. Lily answered quietly. My fiancé left me, and I'm only 2 weeks away from my wedding. What? That's news to me. James sat down next to Lily and put his arm around her shoulders. Lily, don't cry. You're a smart, beautiful girl. You can't take your eyes off her. He's going to regret what he did. Oh yes, sobbing answered the girl. He won't even remember me. Out of sight and out of mind. And me? How would I look in front of my parents? I am 28 still in the bride. They'll make fun of me. I don't even want to live because of it. And she burst into tears again. James looked at her strangely. Look, I don't know if this is the right thing to say, considering how upset you must be feeling right now. He turned to Lily gently. But you see, I have the same story. What do you mean it's the same? You were also dumped 2 weeks before the wedding. Surprised, Lily looked at James. No. With some annoyance, James began to explain. I'm in my 30s. My parents and acquaintances have been buzzing me about when I'm going to bring my bride home. If you and I are in roughly the same situation, maybe we'll have the same solution. I mean, maybe we should get married. You know, get married just for the record. Let everyone think there's one less bachelor and one less bride. I don't get it. Lily was staring at him. So you're basically suggesting we cheat. Well, let's not argue about terminology, smiled James. It's just the way we solve an important question. We'll both get away with it. Both my kin and yours will be relieved to know that we're both settled. But what? Get married? I promised I won't fight on conjugal rights. James managed to keep from blurting out that he'd never planned on starting a family in the first place. Lily was a modest and sensible girl, as far as he could tell from her behavior. She did not get into scandals. No one accused her of lewd behavior, though the grandmothers at the front door were always aware of what was going on. Lily looked at him with pronounced disbelief, and the man realized he had to give her time and lay it all out. Look, if we get married, there are a lot of perks to it. First of all, we're perfect for each other in terms of age. Second, we know each other very well from childhood. Thirdly, each of us will quietly do what we were doing before the marriage. The main thing is that everything will be fine for everyone else. We will be an ordinary married couple, and we will be left alone. Lily began to argue how right it would be to herself and her own family. But James managed to change her mind. Under the pressure of his arguments, the girl surrendered and looked at her veil with a laugh. I'll pretend you hadn't seen my costume. It's bad luck, they say. Get ready. I'll be here in a week for the matchmaking. James said seriously. Lily laughed. Come, fiancé. Just don't back up. A week later, their engagement took place. The parents of the newlyweds-to-be were shocked that their children hadn't even bothered to even hint at their relationship. However, the wedding took place that same month in a city restaurant. The bride and groom had a lot of fun and acted as if they had always dreamed of this wedding. The matchmakers looked at each other in amazement. Lily's mother disliked James's parents, but she had the tact not to show her feelings. 3 days after the wedding, the young couple left on a romantic honeymoon trip. It was difficult for a man to decide to take such a step as a wedding. After unsuccessful romances, when previous women preferred him to wealthier suitors, James made a promise to himself never to get involved in a close relationship with girls. He didn't lead a nun's life, but he didn't imagine he would ever want to propose to anyone. His own impulse toward Lily had surprised him. He felt sorry for her, James said ironically to himself as he pondered the impending wedding. She was in the same situation I was in, except there had been no talk of a wedding, not even an engagement. But now Lily was there, acting like a real newlywed. The only difference was that James slept in the next room on the couch. While Lily rested on the huge bed, the man sometimes wanted to burst in on her in the middle of the night and demand performance of marital duties just to see how Lily would react. But she looked at him in such a way that all desire to arrange tests disappeared at the root. Many men looked at the couple with interest and curiosity, complimenting the newlyweds. Lily was unusually good when she laughed infectiously. James, for the sake of hearing her laugh, began to say all sorts of nonsense. But he tried to keep his jokes civil, so that they didn't sound too provocative. James began to catch himself worrying about Lily's presence. The way she smiled, the way her eyes sparkled when she told or listened to something interesting, the way she enjoyed jumping in the water and having fun swimming beside him and asking for support so she wouldn't drown. And when James had an unfortunate fall and slightly sprained the muscles in his back, the girl herself offered to give him a massage. And I did it according to all the rules. First, she warmed up all the muscles. Then she applied oil and worked every muscle very skillfully. While she was busy massaging, James saw her reflection in the mirror. Lily's face was very focused. She frowned sweetly when she had to make an effort. There was something special and familiar about her that couldn't be explained in words. The thought flashed through the man's mind that he had given his word in vain not to act like a spouse. She was very calm and kind-hearted. James longed to ask her directly. Did she like him just a little bit? Did he have a chance of getting a sign from her that something more than just a stamp in a passport was possible between them? One day James, when Lily didn't want to go down to the bar, went there alone. He immediately noticed a slender lady with very feminine forms who was sitting bored near the bar. The man sat down casually next to her and nodded. "Good afternoon, a cold beer, please." "Well, well." I heard a mocking voice of a stranger. "Here we are too." James turned to her. The girl was pulling up a cocktail and smiling enigmatically. They got to talking and a plan matured in the man's mind. James began frequenting the company of his new acquaintance Polly, who had come to spend her vacation here. The girl was then going to leave for Egypt to meet her boyfriend. Because of her colorful appearance, Polly was often approached by men. James was no exception. He was not ashamed of Lily's presence. He flirted with her, allowing himself a few risky jokes and gestures. For example, he could kiss a girl not on the cheek, but on the lips as a sign of greeting, or pretend that he was going to do so. At the beach, he was sure to compliment her luxurious figure, offering his services as an experienced massage therapist. Lily continued to act like nothing had happened, and James thought with disappointment that he had failed to shake his wife. One day, when he came to the room, the man found Lily packing a suitcase. The girl with a determined look with clenched jaws was folding things. When James appeared on the doorstep and stared at her in surprise with the question, "What is going on here?" Lily, not looking in his direction, replied, "You know, Max, you and I had a fake marriage anyway. So let's not drag it out for 6 months just to keep blowing smoke up in everyone else's faces. I'll go back and file for divorce. I'll cite my husband's adultery as the reason. They usually look at that with sympathy, and we'll be divorced in no time." James is starting to come to his senses. "Lily, that's not how it works. You and I are on our honeymoon here. We're doing fine, and now you're talking about divorce. We've only been married 2 weeks. My ex-fiancé called me," Lily admitted, sinking down on the bed and holding the phone against her. "He apologized to me. He said he was sorry and couldn't live without me. So I decided to give us both a second chance. You see, you and I are still strangers to each other, married to get away from us native. And you will have a reason to lead the old life, hiding behind a failed first marriage. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. Lily, he already betrayed you once. Unbeknownst to himself, James raised his voice. His wife smirked in response. But strictly speaking, I was not the only one who betrayed me. James, who wanted to say that the affair with Polly was just a farce, felt his breath catch when Lily said sorry. But I've already made up my mind. I've bought a return ticket and I'm going home. And you can spend as much time here as you want and with whoever you want. Lily, he's already hurt you. Excitedly, James spoke up. You can't go back to someone who did this to you. Can't you? Didn't you hurt me? It's cold. Asked Lily and walked out of the room. Have a good day. Max. No offense. Damn. The man realized that he wanted a proper drink and to speak out, without looking around, and almost knocked down a hotel clerk in the hallway. James swiftly went down to the bar and ordered a cognac. There was a rustling sound nearby and Polly came into view. As usual, she looked at him with a mocking expression. Why didn't you come to the beach? She asked. Why didn't you come to the beach? Angrily, James answered, taking a swig of his drink. Polly's eyes narrowed, and she gave him a serious, long, studying look. What's the matter? Did you have a quarrel with your wife? That's just it. She left me for her ex. James exhaled and grabbed his head. I just wanted her to be a little jealous, to have some feelings for me. But it looks like I did the wrong thing. Polly shook her head. Despite his outward bravado that marriage wasn't for him, James turned out to be a true one-woman man. Only this discovery came as a shock to himself. So you wanted to make your wife jealous and turn a fake marriage into a real one. I suppose so, James answered nervously, ordering himself a new drink. What a fool you are, Max. I'm speechless, said Polly, taking a drag on her cigarette. Run after her before it's too late. Fall at her feet, but tell her how you feel. Die, but make your wife listen to you. James flinched at these words and quickly ran out of the bar, managing to shout to the girl, Polly, you're a miracle. Thank you. He was impatiently pushing the nonchalant cab driver, who was already driving at a high rate of speed. Come on, buddy, can you hurry up? I have to get to the airport right away. I'm trying, Mr. answered the driver, deftly maneuvering in the flow of cars. When he arrived at the airport, James paid the cab driver and ran to the check-in hall. The attendants did not want to let him pass without a ticket and documents, but listening to his pleas, they allowed him into the pre-boarding area. But there was no one there. A message popped up on the board saying that the right flight was on its way. Lily had left, and he arrived too late. When he got back to the hotel, Polly could tell by his grim look that he hadn't made it. James didn't explain anything to anyone and asked for the room bill. The staff silently accepted the payment, but after James left, they discussed the newlyweds at length. James' parents were beyond surprised when their son showed up on the doorstep of their apartment and gloomily made his way to his room. The mother just wanted to ask where her daughter-in-law was, as her father silently poked her in the side and pressed his finger to his lips, silent. The woman followed the silent advice and said nothing to her son. James went nowhere all day, occasionally appearing in the kitchen to pour himself a strong cup of coffee. The parents understood that this was a sign that their son was very nervous and wanted to retain his ability to think clearly. Suddenly, James threw on his jacket and ran outside. Outside the house, he ran into Lily and the tall man she was walking hand in hand with. Not paying any attention to him, James turned to Lily. Lily, hello. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry to you. Let's talk about it. Lily turned pale and stepped back. The man inquired, looking at his rival to his gaze. Who the hell is that? How can I tell you? Tensely answered Lily. My fictitious husband. It is not, hotly spoke James. I am not fictitious. This is real between us. I love you and I want to prove it. Just give me a second chance. I beg you. Hey man, you're out of line. Lily's ex-fiancé or current fiancé. What kind of husband are you? Get out of here before you get hurt. Shut up. Stiffly, James answered him. He turned to Lily again. Lily, understand, he has already betrayed you, hurt you. He did it once. He will have to betray you. He hasn't made a mistake yet. Give us a chance to be happy with each other. I care for you very much. Yes, I have seen how much you care for me. Coldly, the girl replied. I care how you feel about me. Moreover, I want to be your husband for real, so that everything between us would be like in a normal family. Let's start over, my love. Lily flinched when she heard those words. She hesitated for a second, but in a moment she was in control and told her companion, Let's go home. I'm tired of this silly spectacle. Without dignifying James with a glance, they went into the entryway and disappeared behind closed doors. The man remained in the yard, feeling like a complete idiot. He had ruined his own relationship with Lily with his own hands. Why hadn't he realized right away that she was his one and only? James resignedly went upstairs and locked himself in his room. If Lily decided to file for divorce, he wouldn't stand in the way. But for some reason, the girl dragged her feet. It had been almost a year. James was still hanging around in limbo, as either a bachelor or a married man. In order to forget about his personal problems, the man was absorbed in his work. He walked past Lily's apartment with a heavy heart, quickening his pace to avoid running into her or her fiancé. One day, James's mother came in with the shopping and looked strangely at her son. Hi, Mom. The man said hello to her listlessly, munching on a sandwich and drinking cold tea. Hello, Sonny. The old woman reproached him as usual for eating too much, taking food out of the bag. After a minute, she continued, You know, I saw Lily the other day. She saw the look of vivid interest on her son's face, but he pretended it wasn't any of his business. Well, I saw it. So what? Demonstratively indifferent, James replied and yawned for reassurance. There's something wrong with her, her mother replied thoughtfully, without looking at him. Her eyes were red, and she looked as if she might drown herself. God forbid, the groom hurts her. And you would go and see what is with her. What for? Surprised, her son answered her. We have no one to each other. The mistake of youth, so to speak. It would be a mistake if you left just like that. And you won't even explain yourself to her, the mother answered calmly. She stood in front of me in the checkout line. All sad, crying eyes, tired. Go check on her. James hung around for a while for appearances, but he listened to his mother's advice. Murmuring that he was still forced to listen to her valuable instructions, he found himself at the door of Lily's apartment. The girl did not open immediately. When she saw her ex-husband, she stared at him in surprise. James, what are you doing here? There were tears in the woman's voice. She must have been crying recently. I thought I'd stop by and see how you were. I haven't seen you in the yard for a long time, James said hesitantly. In spite of her tears and dejected mood, Lily was very pretty. Her lips were slightly swollen, her cheeks rosy. She appeared so defenseless and desirable. May I come in? I wouldn't want to get a wind chill, the man asked. Of course, come in. James found himself in the hallway, somewhat warm, but very cozy and clean. The girl took a step back and looked at him blankly. Lily, have you been crying again? For some reason, it hurt James to look at her tears. He stepped closer to her and gently touched her face with his hand. Why are you crying? Did someone hurt you? Here we go again. Lily grinned grimly. Why does everyone think I'm so easily offended? I'm sorry, I didn't mean anything by it. James was embarrassed. He didn't want to leave her, despite her prickly mood. Suddenly, Lily sobbed so that James was speechless for a while. "I'm so tired, James," she whispered, "so tired of being alone. But I don't want to be with the people who made me suffer, you know." "I acted like a fool," James muttered, taking Lily's hand. "I never thought I could fall in love with someone like that. Especially with a girl I'd spent most of my life thinking she was just my next-door neighbor. It happens. Do you love me?" Lily's eyes went huge. James kept his burning gaze on her face. "Madly. I can't live without you. Not a day goes by that I don't think about you." Lily looked at him the way no one had ever looked at him before. James felt elated. Afraid to believe his happiness, he gently touched his lips to the girl's and froze when she responded to his kiss. The man carefully picked Lily up in his arms and carried her into the bedroom in his arms like the greatest jewel of all. Her head was like a fog. My heart was pounding furiously. Every word or action Lily responded to awakened in him a whole range of feelings that made his head spin. James pulled her against him and lightly, touching the top of her head with his lips, breathing in the scent of her fragrant, lush hair. "I still can't believe we're married for real," he whispered. Lily smiled back. "Honestly, neither can I. Neighbors are such neighbors sometimes." Lying in bed, snuggled up against each other, lovers excited, sharing their thoughts and feelings. "You know, when I saw you with that Polly, I just didn't want to live," Lily confessed. "Especially when you were so hot with her at the dance, or when you were rubbing cream on her back on the beach. I wanted to strangle you both." "Even like that?" James looked at her in surprise. "Yes," Lily nodded. "Then I thought, why don't I do the same to you? I thought if you saw me with my ex, you'd, I don't know, start fighting over me. All you did was stand still when I left with him. I wanted so badly at that moment to fall somewhere and never see you again." "I felt the same way," James whispered, kissing Lily on the naked shoulder. "I wanted to run away from you because I was scared. I thought my feelings for my ex were very strong. But after our wedding, when we went on the trip, everything changed. I was afraid I was starting to fall in love with you. Even though we'd agreed that there wouldn't be anything like that between us. I'm sorry, James. I did something stupid." "What are you talking about? You can't run away from yourself," Lily smiled. "No matter how much I told myself I was doing the right thing, that you betrayed me first. I felt like there was no one else I could see, no one I wanted." James froze, because every word of hers described exactly what he himself was feeling and thinking at that moment. "And my ex, when I told him it was over between us. He just yelled a little for show, and he took off into the fog. Said he didn't give a shit about me. I was sick in the head. Yeah, our story wasn't what you'd call typical." James agreed. "What should we do then?" Pretending to think, he then began to list. "First, you and I are going to move back in together. Do you want to go back to my place? I have my own apartment. I just finished renovating it. Do you want to stay here? Secondly, we need to get to know each other better, to see each other through different eyes, so to speak. We're not just roommates anymore, we're married." Lily looked at him with shining eyes and smiled. There was a special relaxedness and sincerity about her as she rested her head on James' chest. "Yes, James, you and I certainly won't be bored. We could make a TV series or a psychiatry textbook on how to go crazy with jealousy and put the roof back on."